My dad had a secret child he never told use about, and I found out because a stranger showed up at our front door asking for him by name. I was 26 years old and had stopped by my parents' house for Sunday dinner. My mom was in the kitchen and my dad was grilling in the backyard when someone knocked on the door. I opened it and saw a guy around my age standing there holding an envelope. He looked nervous and kept glancing toward the house. Then he looked directly at me and asked, "Is Robert Miller here?" I said yes and asked who he was. The guy swallowed hard and said, is my father." My entire body went cold. My dad had been married to my mom for 30 years. They met in college and had 3 kids together, my younger sister and my younger brother. We were an ordinary family from Ohio. My dad was the kind of man everyone trusted. He coached little leagues to everyone's cars for free and never forgot birthdays. I genuinely believed there were no secrets left in our family. Then this stranger showed up claiming to be his son. I thought it had to be some kind of scam. I asked him what he meant and he pulled out a photograph. It showed my dad in his late 20s with a young woman standing beside him. He handed me a copy of a birth certificate. My dad's name was listed under father. I could barely speak. Just then my dad walked inside from the backyard carrying a plate of hamburgers. He saw the man standing there and nearly dropped the plate. I had never seen my father look afraid before. The stranger looked at him and quietly said, "My name is Ethan. I think you're me, Dad." My father's face went completely white. My mom came into the hallway and immediately knew something was wrong. Nobody spoke for nearly a minute. Then my dad, "Is spared, oh me God." My mom looked at him and asked, "Do you know this man?" My father slowly nodded and sat down in the living room like his legs stopped working. Ethan explained that he had recently taken a DNA test for fun and matched with one of my cousins. He spent months researching his family tree until everything eventually led to my father. Apparently Ethan had been adopted as a baby and only started searching for biological relatives after his adoptive mother passed away. My mom looked like she could not breathe. Then she quietly asked my father if it was true. He buried his face with his hands and started crying. He admitted that before meeting my mom, he briefly dated a woman named Lisa. They were both 19 and broke up after only a few months. Several weeks later, Lisa told him she was pregnant. My father panicked. They were both struggling financially and had no idea how to raise a child. According to my dad, Lisa eventually decided on adoption and moved to another state. He attended several appointments and signed paperwork before the baby was born. Then he never heard from her again. My dad said he spent years wondering what happened to the child, but eventually convinced himself that the baby had probably been raised by a loving family. Then he met my mom and built an entirely new life. He never told anyone because he was ashamed and believed the past was over. It thought that was the whole story. Then Ethan opened the manila envelope and said there's something else inside with dozens of letters. Every single one was addressed to my father. My dad looked confused. Ethan explained that after placing him for adoption, Lisa had changed her mind. She spent years trying to contact my father. She sent letters to his old address, but they were never answered. Apparently my grandparents hated Lisa and believed adoption was the right decision. They intercepted every letter and threw them away because they didn't want their son dragged back into what they considered a mistake. My father Shan started shaking as she read the letters. One of them said, "I know we were young, but he deserves to know we loved him." Another simply said, "Happy 5th birthday to our son. I hope one day you think about him." The last letters was dated 20 years earlier and read, "I guess this is goodbye. I hope has a wonderful life." My father cried harder than I had ever seen before. He kept repeating in ever new and new. My mom started crying too because she realized my father had spent 30 years carrying guilt over a child he believed he had abandoned when in reality he had been searching for answers that were hidden from him all along. Ethan stayed for dinner that night. We talked for 6 hours and looked through old photographs. By the end of the evening, he no longer felt like a stranger. He felt like someone who had been missing from our family for very long. Last Christmas, there was an extra chair at our dinner table and my father raised his glass, looked at Ethan and said, "I thought I lost my chance to know you before it ever started. Thank you for knocking on my door." And I looked around the table and realized that sometimes the biggest family secrets are not hidden because someone wanted to keep them, but because life and other people got in the way of the truth for far too long.